Hello there friends, this is Dota News and we're here to create the best Dota News channel ever. We noticed that you really like our video with Miracle's story and we decided to continue to tell you about the legendary players of Dota 2. And it happened so that we decided to go with another Enigma Galaxy player, and today it's Sumail, the Emperor himself. In this episode you will learn about Sumail's biography, how he became the youngest winner of the International, why his career slowly went downhill, and what to expect from him now. Without further ado, let's get straight to it. Sumail Hassan was born on February 13th, 1999 in Pakistan, the city of Karachi. Computer games quickly won the heart of our hero. When he was 7 years old, he and his brother often visited internet cafes, but mostly he watched as others play. At that age, he was just sitting there at the PC and mindlessly pressing the buttons, but then he met Dota, which at the time was gaining popularity. Although the game immediately interested Sumail, he got tightly hooked on it only at the age of 11. And as it always happens with the best of the best, the young man sacrificed sleep, didn't go to school, and even forgot to eat in order to play his favorite game. It seems crazy at that age to devote so much time to a game, putting it above everything else. But as it would later turn out, not for nothing. When Sumail was 15 years old, his family moved to the United States. Here, Sumail learned how it feels to play Dota without lags. His parents bought him a PC, and he began to develop his skill incredibly quickly, smashing NA servers, showing a high level of play, maybe even the highest North America ever seen. So obviously after such a skyrocket jump to the top of the ladder, people started to call him to play for them in the leagues. And already in the winter of 2014, Sumail made his first appearance in the Star Ladder qualifiers as a member of Vici Gaming. And in the end, they lacked only one victory before going to the LAN finals. At that tournament, young Hassan showed himself perfectly. No one could believe he was only 15 years old. It seemed that his level of play was much higher than of some experienced players. And after he established himself as a young and promising talent thanks to Universe, another pro player, he was able to get into Evil Geniuses. You know, back in the days when EG was a really powerful force and a huge brand in the Dota 2 scene. Moreover, Arteezy and Zai has just left their lineup, so they needed an offlaner and a mid laner. So basically Universe and Sumail were EG's best chances. Sure thing, it was a very questionable decision to bring an unexperienced kid into such a famous and huge team, but he did have the talent. So his first chance to prove himself was at the Dota 2 League Season 5 in Las Vegas. It's worth noting that Sumail was one of the best Storm Spirit players of the time, maybe even to this moment. Yes, and I mean considering a bet too. But for some reason his captain didn't pick this hero at the tournaments and the young talent was not able to show himself properly. However, it wasn't just about the fact that he didn't play his best hero. Sumail himself was extremely inexperienced and the first LAN tournament morally crushed him. So as a result, EG didn't perform well, and critics began to doubt Sumail and whether he is suitable for a big team. Sumail got his second chance at Dota 2 Asia Championships 2015, and in the very first match of the tournament, Sumail stood out with a new build on Shadow Fiend. He got Eol's Scepter, and as you can guess, this build became a meta for the rest of the tournament, and then for pubs for more than 5 years. EG's captain PPD decided to play for mid laner this time and draft his comfortable heroes. And this tactic was quite successful as they played pretty well in the group, taking 3rd place with a map score of 11-4. Then Sumail's new team faced NaVi in the very first match of the playoffs. On the first map, Sumail got Invoker, and just imagine, he's a teenager playing his first game against Dandy, the legend, the icon of Dota 2. But Sumail managed. The difference in skills and strength was not noticeable at all, and Sumail destroyed the legend on the laning stage. But strong lanes didn't help EG on the first map and they lost. On the second map, Sumail got Tinker and also played mid lane perfectly, but this time EG players did much better. Sumail made good moves on the map and contributed a lot of impact. Too easy for EG. Now the decisive map. Here, NaVi made a crucial mistake. They gave Storm Spirit to Sumail. On 2 previous maps, they banned his Betrider and Storm Spirit with first bans, and now they decided to show that they were ready to play against this hero. And just listen to this, NaVi put 2 players to play against Sumail in middle lane while Dandy was standing solo on top. Yeah, such tactics sometimes happened in the early days of Dota, but even against Tiny and Wisp, Sumail was able to stand the lane perfectly and took out his gold from it. In this game, Sumail showed all the power of his Storm Spirit and destroyed his opponents. The map ended with a score 26-5 with no chance for NaVi. The next game was against Big God. On the first map, Sumail single-handedly destroyed his opponents. EG made 14 kills, of which 11 were Sumail's. But the second map clearly didn't go well and EG was shut down in 24 minutes. So basically, as you can see, the Chinese team didn't want to ban mid laners for Sumail, pretending that he was not the problem. And they also did it on the third map. Only this time, EG themselves decided to abandon Storm Spirit and take Templar Assassin for Sumail. In a sweaty battle, in a struggle, Xiao8's team lost the third map and Evil Geniuses got through to the favorites of the tournament, Vici Gaming. And here, Evil Geniuses got totally beaten up. Sumail couldn't do anything and his team fell to Team Secret in the lower bracket. And you know, Poppy is too intelligent to overlook it. Team Secret on the first map immediately banned Storm Spirit. Only they didn't take into account that young Sumail could play with multiple heroes, including Tinker. And Sumail dominated the entire first map, and at 32 minutes he had 20k net worth, which was 10k more gold than S4 on Pak, who was playing in mid lane at the time. In the end, Sumail together with Universe just closed Team Secret at 36 minutes. On the second map, Sumail got his non-standard hero, Brewmaster, mid lane Brewmaster. And as you can see, EG's tactics are pretty clear. If Storm Spirit is banned or they just don't want to pick him because of the strategy for the game, they just give Sumail whatever he wants, which is basically an all-in on the player. So yeah, this game was very intense and dragged on into the late game, and until the end it was not clear who would win. And as you can see, Poppy's team's sniper didn't give the same impact Fear did. It was just a bad game for him. Clockwork and Brewmaster always were finding Arteezy. So this is how Sumail got into his first tournament final. At first sight, it seemed like he was just some kind of a spectator, but when it came to performing and skill, it was clear that he was the best in his role. So in the grand finals, we witnessed a rematch between EG and VG for $1,300,000. On the first map, Sumail got Templar Assassin. Thanks to his net worth, EG was able to hold off a giant SF in the middle stages of the game. And when the rest of Sumail's team cores got big too, Evil Geniuses easily shot the enemies down. Sumail was showing an incredible level of play for the time. If he got such aggressive heroes, Sumail had more frags than anyone on the map and also had a lot of money. Sumail played the second map on Brewmaster. This game didn't go well for him, but Sumail was carried by Fear, who was playing on Anti-Mage, who made minimal mistakes and finished the game beating the next closest hero in gold terms by as much as 11k. And here it is, the final game before Sumail's first title. Symbolically, he decided to play the last game on his favorite hero, Storm Spirit. EG had a bad start of the game. Shadow Fiend was just too big. It took him only a couple of hits to demolish any one of the opponents. The situation was basically saved by the fact that Dire had a lot of magic stuff in the form of Zeus, Storm Spirit, Earthshaker, and Enigma. And if supports got to Shadow Fiend, it would be extremely hard for him to play Dota, and so it happened. In an equal 5v5, Terrorblade was just dismantled by magic. And Shadow Fiend got into the black hole and Sumail got 3 huge kills. After such a great fight, EG quickly got back into the game. And Sumail set a record for the fastest acquired Bloodstone on the pro scene. The young player just felt that there is no stopping him. And he destroyed the entire map. Out of 32 total frags, the young genius participated in 28. In the course of the tournament, everyone learned Sumail's playstyle, the ultra-aggressive play. He wasn't afraid to jump first into the fight or chase enemies to the end. It basically showed how great he felt his heroes. Young Sumail's first achievement was clearly deserved. After a totally lost mid lane 0-3, the player didn't get frustrated and was able to not only get back into the game, but to manage to turn it around. Immediately he established himself as one of the best mid laners of the time, or maybe even overall. And after such a performance at Dota 2 Asian Championships, the team was aiming for TI. They when they're already in the status of favorites along with Team Secret. But before, they also played at the Summit 3 and ESL 1 Frankfurt 2015. They placed second in both of them. This rivalry between EG and Team Secret can be compared to Gaming Gladiators against Team Liquid in early 2023, when Liquid constantly lost to them in tournament finals. But then came the International 2015, and though both teams in groups performed pretty well, Poppy's team faltered and Team Secret finished 8th in the tournament. So it was all up to Sumail, but unfortunately things didn't go as smoothly as the team wanted. Yes, the first playoff matches were won without any problems, 2 games of 40 minutes against Complexity. But then against EHOME it was a little tougher, so to say. On the first map, EG completely outdrafted the enemy team by picking Anti-Mage against 4 mana-dependent heroes, as well as Sumail on the then meta Queen of Pain. Well, basically it looked like an outdraft, but it turned out that EHOME got into the international playoffs for a reason. They were outstandingly team-oriented and they realized their timings just perfectly, and their individual play was top-notch. So EG lost the first map. Evil geniuses needed to get their act together to be able to fight EHOME. On the second map, Sumail played on Ember Spirit. It was one of his best heroes that no one doubted, but he was shut down completely by Razor. EHOME's mid laner CTY was known as the strongest 1v1 player in China. Still, you wouldn't believe it, but this map was decided by Takis and by AUI 2000's outstanding play. So EHOME's tactics was basically to build up advantage and snowball the game, but they just couldn't do it because of Takis. He ruined all of their plans, and when the right moment has come, EG just counterattacked and won the game. And again, all thanks to AUI being the MVP playing Takis. Everything was decided on the third map. This time Sumail was playing on Windranger and he was able to defeat Storm Spirit in the mid lane without any problems. And this map was a repeat of the second map. EHOME again stood on the base and waited for them to be demolished. Here I would like to know the disciplined play of Sumail, who tried to die the minimum number of times. And having made an ultra kill in the opponent's base, our boy went to the finals of the top bracket. Here Evil Geniuses met CDEC. In general, the International 2015 was remembered by surprises all over the place. Successful teams playing bleakly without any ideas and dropping out of the tournament really quickly, and then the outsiders on the contrary playing really well and showing a high level of skill. And this is basically what happened with CDEC. They were no ones, they were underdogs, they were playing against one of the biggest teams of TI. But if on the first map EG tried to show something at least, on the second map they were shut down without any chances. CDEC gets into the TI finals and Sumail himself drops to the lower bracket with his team, where he will meet no less formidable opponent, LGD. And here's an interesting fact for you, Sumail still hasn't played on Storm Spirit in the playoffs. Personally, I haven't understood why, because this hero was really popular on TI and had a good win rate. On the first map against LGD we will see a Storm Spirit, but not in Sumail's hands. He himself will play Lina. The game was pretty equal, and Sumail provided us with the first highlight. He simply crushed his opponents by making an ultra kill for himself. But even this bright moment from which the whole exploded didn't help EG to quickly finish, and the game was dragged into the late game. Just like in the current super late Dota, the difference in gold wasn't that big of a deal if cores have all the key items they needed. It's all about execution. And after catching Xiao8's 3 team cores along with 3 dire heroes, EG takes the first map. On the second map, Sumail played on Lashrak, and again, these teams were incredibly close. It was really hard to identify who is a favorite here, but this game was all about Sumail and his net worth.
He's got the Satanic now, he can pop it, fighting his way through, but the Blade Mail is going to prevent this, and now the TPs start coming in. EG might get him twice, this Shadow feeds it a lot of damage. Doesn't have his BK loadouts there, maybe, doesn't have it, he can't survive, he's not by either. Universe now also in the back foot is Sylar, walks away, they chase forward with Sumail, they look for more. EG finding the rhythm, the cannon, showing Flower, Xiao8 almost dead, there's the eject on the snowball, not enough, Sumail gets the kill, and now he looks to get out. BKB again force the old man, punishing Sylar, breaking in. Sumail going hard to the paint. He wants silo. He gets him again. This hunt.
He was tearing apart his opponents. I really like this kind of players. Just look at this, he jumps into 4 heroes with such confidence that his teammates even didn't expect it, and it shows how Sumail trusts his teammates and himself first of all. For one such huge fight, EG got an advantage of 15k gold, and finally we get the favorite of this encounter. So for one good fight, Sumail and his team could make their ways to the TI finals. And if Sumail win the international, he will become the youngest Aegis holder in the history of Dota. Spoiler alert, he did it and he still holds the record. But anyways, let's get back to the grand finals of one of the most exciting TIs of all. And finally, it's Sumail playing Storm Spirit. You know what, it's always fun to watch a player destroy on this hero, and this matchup was no exception. EG stood out with their aggressive play and the way they bait their opponents.
And they're about to get more. Universe is prepped on the hillside. He wants just a hook shot down the Spirit Breaker, allowing Sumail to jump himself across the river, and there's your hook shot down, and the Cogs are going to push him back. Not the perfect initiation. Now they can try and turn around, but the Split Earth misses. You do commit the Nether Strike, and Universe trying to get out with the Mystic Flare. The Sonic Wave will at least kill off the Clockwork. And EG needs to back out, then again, CDEC does. Sumail back in, a huge call down from Fear. They're going to take 1, going to take 2, a double for the Gyro.
They peek a little, show themselves, and then turn around and ask enemies to follow them, before turning around one more time and smashing them. Overall, CDEC were not clearly playing the same way they did in the last meeting. They began to make more mistakes and do stupid things. Sumail's solo was creating a huge space for his team. The Chinese players were just running around here and there, afraid of Sumail. And if they tried to catch someone from EG, Sumail instantly punished them for such impudence. First map won by EG, no chances. Another interesting fact, Sumail was the only player in the tournament who picked mid Windranger. This time, EG's enemies clearly outdrafted them. They looked much more formidable. And on the map itself, they just had more chemistry than EG. And yeah, Sumail's game on Windranger didn't go well at all. He couldn't frag well, and the Chinese players gradually caught him off guard, and EG were basically just sitting in the base and as a result lost. The third map was the most exciting in the series. Sumail played on one of his signature heroes, Ember Spirit. The opponents decided to go with Slark, surprising everyone as he was picked only one time and it was unsuccessful. But the Chinese team decided to get Slark for aggression for a reason. And he basically won the lane, coming out big enough. And their Lashrak was pretty solid on mid too. In the early game I had the impression that the plot of the second map was being repeated. The Chinese players would just, in their style, gradually snowball the opponents and attack them again and again and again. But Sumail wouldn't be the main character of the video if he couldn't turn the whole situation around. In a heavy fight, EG trades 3-1, taking 2 enemy cores, leaving only Slark and Visage alive. Sumail himself gets a double kill and breaks into the top of the net worth, but evil geniuses just couldn't build up the advantage even with Roshan taken, and the game became equal again. Both teams were waiting for their opponents to make a mistake, and CDEC were the first to make one. They fought badly and gave away a Roshan, and here was a great chance to finish the game with Aegis on Gyrocopter, but if it only were that easy. Fear wanders into the forest and gets caught by Slark. It was honestly a hilarious duel because they didn't have damage at all, both of them. And while they were struggling, everyone else arrived. But EG players took the wrong position, giving advantage to the enemy. Till the last moments it wasn't clear who will take the third map, so the game dragged into the late game. And again, the Chinese team makes the same mistakes, giving Aegis to EG. But even with Aegis, these fights were just too equal and constantly were divided into 2 parts. In the first part, Fear fights with Slark and some other hero, and in the second part, Sumail tried to cut out the supports. In the end, this whole encounter was ended by a Linking Sphere on Ember Spirit, which the Chinese players were not ready for. Slark decided to focus Sumail and lost his Abyssal Blade into the Linking Sphere.
Sumail's got that Liquid Sphere up and running, so the initial attack won't be as easy.
Radiant's top tower is under siege.
Trying to keep him back. In comes aggressive, triggers the BKB. TPD already with the tombstone down. They may not have enough of an opening. In fact, maybe they will. They found aggressive locked inside the cogs while over on the side. Fear is keeping the Visage out, and then the back trying to go for the wall. They get it perfectly. With Shiki pops over, they need more damage. Sumail gets a side of fist off. He's so low on life, and now a little bit more. They can't even get him out. There's more damage coming in with Brack. So low on life, aggressive turns the fight, going on Fear. The stuns are there. PPD back to front line, trying to remove that life away from the slug. And they keep going. The seal's on him. He can't bounce away. They lock him inside the cogs. Aggressive is down. Huge kill. He no longer hiding in the tree. It's not safe there. The Lion is back to base, and so is XT. A huge fight for EG. An invitation to force buybacks here from CDEC. If they can push into the tier 3s.
That cheese on Fear. Perfect timing using that. And CDEC will have to buy back one, if not even two heroes if they want to hold this lane. They're buying Shiki back for now.
They don't want to have the Slark though. And Shiki already getting concussive shot at XZ. The back will come. They look for the stun. It only connects over on Fear while Universe pushing aggressive back. The cogs are keeping him out while the side of fist goes again from Sumail. Defenses through jump, and they're all trying to keep me out. They got the double buybacks. That's what they're looking for. And aggressive. Abyss of Blade is still available. Blink Dagger off cooldown. And in fact, Sumail up in the air with the Ulset. Blink Sphere will trigger, but Sumail, he's gonna go down. CDEC, they get something back for them.
And because of such a small thing, the Chinese team loses the fight. That's what everyone thought at first. EG aim for the throne, but Slark and Leshrac buy back, and they don't let Sumail and Gyrocopter go. The tension of the map was just unreal, and the last fight turned out to be dynamic. Hero chases, tons of damage. Again, the fight was divided.
The courier's coming in with the rest of the side. It's so close for Leshrac. He missed the hook shot in. They need that courier dead right now. It's on the run out, and actually he doesn't even want to turn to pick up the side. Now I'll turn around. Okay, that's just free gold that they're not taking. But they move up. There's your searing chains over on the track. BKBs from both. As aggressive also jumps in, looking for the Abyssal Blade trigger and Universe. Hook shots up, pushes the Slark back. There's no BKB, but Shadow Dance is available. The Tombstone will split this fight up. If CDEC want to come in through the rear, but now they're running over to the dire side of the jungle, chasing in. Sumail right behind him, has a Blink Dagger off cooldown. Another hook shot going to work. They find their opening. It's the Lion down. Q also being thrown down with that concussive shot, locked inside the cogs in the middle of the river. He needs a path to bring him. It just doesn't exist with Sumail. He even goes in deeper on the back of Shiki. Sun will be available. They back him back in. There's still defensive spirits available. Side of Fist, and maybe there is enough damage. Aggressive, steering chained up. They need the damage. Ball stuff away. Aggressive, no space to live. XT's in huge trouble. Trying to run himself out of the cogs. Ball stopped out of Lion. And this is real trouble right now for CDEC. Sticking down the tree line as well. There are no buybacks available. Lion, the sole survivor. The only thing that is stopping this game right now is a creepway pushing.
But this time, EG miraculously still managed to squeeze the Chinese team into the tavern. The game finished at 59 minutes. If this map was the most spectacular of the finals, then the fourth map can be called the most legendary one. Sumail on Storm Spirit, Fear on Gyrocopter, Universe on Earthshaker, IUI 2000 on Naga, and PPD on Ancient Apparition. It looked like EG decided to take their favorite heroes and that's all, and play their best Dota. One map left for our protagonist to become the Dota legend, and it was great to see that the hero choice fell on Storm Spirit. It didn't take long for the player to be recognized as one of the best players in mid lane, and his best hero is also considered as the alter ego of Sumail himself. This shows how much respect people have for the young talent, and the entire community recognizes that his Storm is the scariest on the pro scene, was and will be. But let's get back to the map 4 of the International 2015 Grand Finals. Sumail drew first blood as early as 9 minutes in. Wait, that's not really early. After both teams decided to go smoke at the same time. But EG had the high ground advantage, and it was just in their favor. On the 19th minute, Sumail showed the whole scene how reckless he is by flying full mana into the enemy lane across the map, and such a seemingly ordinary moment unrealistically charges the whole arena.
Man, it really feels like though, CDEC, like there's no real advantage here. The experience is a little bit going the way of EG. There's nothing in the gold. But it's only like 4K. Oh, that's real trouble right now for Garda. The sun's gonna miss. He could turn around and try and nuke on Sumail, but it's not gonna be any good.
I think because of such a fearless game, because of the power he radiates, this Pakistani player fell into the hearts of everyone in Dota 2 community. But it also should be mentioned that Sumail's teammates showed an extremely high level of play and they knew what Sumail's gonna do. Otherwise, when Sumail had a bad game, they could just take the game on themselves. But this time, each player gave their full impact and they built up the advantage. They fought better, farmed better, and did it all together, and EG's draft is obviously stronger here. But Sumail's young, boiling blood wasn't just positively influencing the game, he often would foul. So on this map, he felt incredibly strong and just decided to solo and jump into the enemy team. And they got him. Afterwards, they decided to go to get Roshan. It was basically a chance for the Chinese team to come back, but then the unexpected happened.
I don't think EG are interested in contesting this 4-on-5, but maybe they could delay it long enough for it to be a 5-on-5 if they Ice Blast and Fissure properly. There is no hook shot.
They're all together. PPD, here comes the Ice Blast, ready for the dog! In from Universe! It's a disaster! CDEC! They're gonna get wiped from the face of the earth, apart from aggressive. He'll jump out, but the wombo combo perfectly hits from Evil Geniuses, and now they will take Roshan. Sumail is back, they'll get the egg into the Immortal.
Yeah, they don't even need to buy time. When they have superior vision and CDEC have no idea.
Yeah, we just saw the $6 million Echo Slam, and one of the best chat wheel phrases ever. And what makes this moment even more legendary is that it was done in the TI Grand Finals, in front of the whole audience. So PPD and Universe just buried CDEC together with one great move. And after that, the Chinese team was just done. It was no problem for Sumail's team to finish the game and raise Aegis over their heads. When Sumail was asked what winning the Aegis meant to him, he said everything.
Sumail, I know this has been a great experience for you too. What does this mean to you, and what does it mean to bring this victory home to your family?
I mean, it just meant everything for me, so we got it now. Feeling pretty excited. And yeah, it's pretty good to get some money from my family.
In addition to becoming the youngest ever Aegis winner, Sumail also became the youngest ever esports athlete to earn $1 million. After the International 2015, AUI was replaced by RTZ, and the Evil Geniuses were still showing consistent results. They got second at 2015 MLG World Finals, then the third place at the Frankfurt Major 2015, and then they won the Summit number 4. At the beginning of 2016, Sumail's team slowly but surely changed for the worse. Among the good results, we can only mention the third place at the Shanghai Major 2016. Due to a lot of reshuffles, Evil Geniuses started to drop out, often at the early stages of major tournaments. For the International 2016, the only change in the main roster was AUI for Zai, and throughout the tournament, Sumail showed a good level of play. EG did really great in the group stage, and just as at the last TI, they reached the finals of the upper bracket, where they ran into Wings, who closed EG without a chance. On the first map, EG tried to show something, but on the second map they were just destroyed. In the lower bracket they met Digital Chaos, which left Sumail and his team in the third place overall. After an average result at the International, Sumail decided to take an extended break and return to the team only at the Mars Dota 2 League 2016 Autumn, where they took first place. And next, after playing for EG for almost 5 years, after TI 2019 in which EG didn't show the desired results, Sumail decided to leave the org. During this period, Sumail's career began a gradual decline. First, he left to join his brother Yavar in Quincy Crew as a carry. He was there for like a month, but then he decided to go to a promising and star-studded OG. Sumail still played very well and stood out with highlights. The team itself stood out for its stability, and Sumail, playing as a carry, even became the MVP of TI 10 qualifiers. But at the event itself, the team faced difficulties. Despite a pretty good group stage, OG dropped to the lower bracket because of Puppy's team. And there they ran into no one else but Team Spirit. And you know how it all ended for Team Spirit then. Although Sumail played very well as a carry, he wasn't able to achieve any success with OG, and his next next choice was Team Secret, where he again couldn't win anything, and after playing 6 months with Poppy, they decided to part ways. And then Sumail fell into an even bigger hole, Team Nigma, or Nigma Galaxy. You guys know that it's never easy with Nigma Galaxy. But then he went to China to Team Aster, and there he looked much better. But again, no titles at all. No wins, no successes, no achievements, nothing. And Sumail decided to take a break from Dota. Sumail is an extremely consistent player. During his career, he played both as a mid laner and as a carry, and he did it outstandingly. And everyone in the Dota community recognizes him as a true legend, as the Emperor of Dota. But why did Sumail stop winning tournaments? I personally think it has a lot to do with the teams. The players of Evil Geniuses were really skilled and very experienced, so the success was just a matter of time. The same was with OG, where it was clear that they had a decent team, but they were a little unlucky. In my opinion, the problem was that Sumail was playing carry, not mid lane. Even though the roster was extremely strong, Sumail was remembered as a mid laner, not a carry, and he was made for playing in the mid lane. And you know what? Sumail had some success in Nigma at first, but as the season showed, they also failed. And Team Secret and Team Aster, I mean, Sumail was just carrying them almost single-handedly. So as you can see, what I'm trying to say is that it most of the time was about the teams that he joined. But also I think that every player who reaches their peak should have a slump after huge successes. And that's okay, that's normal. Sumail really quickly climbed to the top, establishing himself as one of the greatest players in Dota history, but winning doesn't always work. So as you can see, changing roles and changing teams constantly for Sumail was a fatal mistake that caused him to lose his form as a mid laner, which resulted in an overall downfall. After the last break, Sumail finally returns to Nigma Galaxy, and it's exactly the same story as with Miracle. We, as the viewers or the fans, really want to expect the best from the team. The roster has changed significantly, and maybe things will go well now. From the team in which Sumail played previously remains only Miracle and Kuroki. By the way, at the moment Sumail is just grinding as hell. He gained some incredible sheep before the next BB Dacha. In 23 games he has a 74% win rate. And it's not even surprising, as the current Dota 2 meta includes heroes like Storm Spirit, Ember Spirit, Invoker, Puck, and even Earth Spirit. And these heroes are Sumail's mains. He spent his best years with them. But apart from the heroes, not everything is so good. You see, in a few recent years the meta in Dota 2 changed a lot. If before everyone played for their mid laners, now offlaners and carries are much more important. Mid heroes have become bleak and some sort of supports and tanks to create space for their cores. Sometimes, of course, a mid lane position player decides the outcome of a match, but often it's not really the case. I'm not really sure how Sumail has adjusted to the current esports meta, because it differs from pub meta. But in any case, it will be very interesting to observe this. Personally, I expect a very strong individual performance from Sumail, which he showed earlier. I don't really believe his skill has faded. Let's just hope that his team will be able to catch up, because Miracle and Sumail together are just out of this world in terms of overall skill level. But the other three, I mean Ghost, Kuroki, Roman as pos 4, I don't really believe in them. But hey, let's be honest, nobody knows what's gonna happen next. Anyways, don't forget to follow our channel. Dota News Live will be covering everything Dota 2 related. That's all for today, friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to tell me which player you would like to see in the next video. And also, don't forget to hit that like button. I'm not saying goodbye for a long time. See you soon.